Alright. Back and, well, put on my glasses. I wasn't wearing my glasses the first hour because I'm stubborn and hate wearing my glasses with headphones because it hurts my ears. But now that I have glasses, probably won't make mistakes, as in reading the wrong word as often anymore. Hopefully, I don't know. Anyway. I caught her attention. She turned her head to me, silently. She was babbling, panicking, and I needed to calm her down. Strangely, for a moment it worked. Her eyes opened wide. That's a bit of a typo. Anyway, she was silent, unmoving, but attentive. Look, I understand you're going through a lot right now, but you're still the same being you were before your limitation chip was destroyed. You still have that same drive, that same capacity to help people. You have your brains. Well, does she have a brain? I guess you mean it in a metaphorical sense. Your experience, and well, frankly, I'm gonna need you to keep us both alive. What? You still have your orders, don't you? Budapest took a step back. The realization was dawning on her. I could tell there was a glimmer of understanding in her eyes. A lot of references to her eyes. Pilot. We're not pilot. We're a passenger. We're not really a pilot. Do we have any experience piloting? I don't think we do. Anyway, my primary directive is to keep the passenger alive at any and all costs. I nodded. I'm not sure what will happen once we get back or what they're gonna do to you, but you still have a mission, a purpose. I can't imagine what's going on through your head right now. Well, probably they're gonna put the chip back on, so that's probably what's gonna happen. We can't have sentient AIs, do we? It's not like I would know how you're feeling, but if you need someone to help you through this, well, it's not like I'll be going anywhere either. Her hand seemed to relax, just slightly. I was getting through to her, but I couldn't stop there. You got us out of a tight spot, and I know you could do it again. You've years of experience doing this. You know the system better than the back of your hand. Although, I guess this is kind of like the back of your hand. Budapest giggled. It sounded warmer this time. Her hands lowered, her fingers snaked through her long red hair. It was the first time I seen her genuinely smile. It was a nice sight to see. I believe in you, and what you're capable of, and as long as we're stuck in this drifting hunk of metal, you've still got a job to do, just like I have business to do once I get back home. Understand? She nodded. I understand. This may well be my very last voyage as a pilot for Titan Transportation Solutions. But even then, I'll do everything in my power to ensure you reach Alpha Centauri. She bowed gracefully. The motion was practiced, but the beaming smile on her face betrayed her new enthusiasm. You have my word. I couldn't help but smile, and also I couldn't help but tease her. Tell you what, if they won't take you back and try to scuttle the ship, I'll take you off their hands. I'm thinking I'll download and install you in my phone. Is that... do you have enough memory on your phone for an entire AI? Ah, phone? That would be so cramped. And this cockpit isn't? Budapest laughed enthusiastically, relishing the absurd notion. That's a novel way for a program to act. Suddenly embarrassed, she tried her hardest to shut herself up, but couldn't suppress the giggling. I told you, I'm not just a program anymore. Does that mean it's no longer against regulations to tease you then? She pouted and went back to work. I snickered, satisfied to myself. The cockpit fell into silence, aside from the muted hums and clicks emitting from the countless computer systems. Budapest seemed to be much more confident now. Her eyes flickered with profound readiness. She was no longer practicing a clinical pre-programmed routine. She had become genuine. Maybe this was the real her after all. I have liked to think so. I thought back to the limitation chip. Why would they create a device like that? Well, probably because they watched Space Odyssey, you know? AI being sentient and also murdering us. I don't know. Anyway, it sounded so awful to me. This gentle creature sitting only a few feet away from me represented the pinnacle of human innovation. And well, of course, there's always the potential for goodness as well as evil, you know? I guess the actual problem is the fact that the AI, if they act like human, they will have all the flaws of humanity, but also all the power of a computer, which is quite powerful, I guess, in this science fiction world, in a lot of science fiction anyway. They hadn't just created new life, they created life which mirrored their own humanity. Life that could think for itself, feel the entire spectrum of emotions, live for itself and others. To me, installing those chips, it was like taking a sledgehammer to the mirror of humanity we created. It felt awful. The worst. I hadn't really thought about it much up to this point, but then I could feel the outrage welling up within me. I stole a glance at her, working enthusiastically at her displays. It seemed that as soon as our conversation died out, she returned to the world of code, looking for something. So what are you up to now? I'm scanning the ship's databases, as well as running a nearby radar scan for any nearby vessels, or perhaps a notable landmark. She frowned. Though it turns out my suspicions were correct. There's no data published on this stretch of space. It's remote, unexplored, and I can't detect a single sign of life within the shuttle's range. Now my heart sank. Do you mean? I couldn't help but feel the dread spread out around me. Were we stranded? We are in dead space, yes. Oh no. Actually, wait. According to this data here, with her index finger and her thumb, Budapest quickly expanded one of the small rectangles on the interface hovering in front of her. It enlarged in an instant, its width stretching from her side to the cockpit to mine. It seemed to be a grainy, black and white photograph of some kind of small space station. Budapest paused for a moment. Double-checking her data, I thought she was doing... We're on a due course to pass by a research outpost. According to the registry data, it's owned and operated by the Arcadian Empire's government. You think it's military? It likely is. The Empire has been interested in exploring the farther reaches of known space and seems to be a hub for activity in the region. While our communication systems are too damaged to send a distress beacon of sufficient frequency, we're drifting right in their direction. Once we get close enough, they should detect us themselves and send someone to investigate. That sounds great. How far away are they? Well, Empire. This Empire, Arcadian Empire sounds... They don't sound like nice people. Well. Her eyes lowered for a moment to study her documents. Approximately 30 days at our current trajectory and pace. That's a long trip. Probably a long trip back. Well, we could just put me in cryostasis and have you wake me up once we get there. It'll be a while anyway. Most, if not all, long-range spacefaring vessels had cryostasis technology built into them. They were pretty much necessary for longer journeys. Each ship contained its hold the necessary chemicals and machinery needed for cryogenic sleep process. When installed and activated, cryogenic sleep systems would send all the craft's carbon-based life forms and would sort of trance-induced coma while the personnel navigator would typically take it over from there, yes. You freeze yourself. Certain insular chemicals slow down your biological processes to a glacial pace. To your body, a 3-month-long trip will be over in 10 seconds. Incredible. Surely it would be a goddamn long time to reach Alpha Centauri, but I'd be asleep for most of it. It'll be over in a flash. Budapest was silent. She was biting her lip. Her thin smile eroded away. What is it? Is the cryostasis system out there too? Well, all that explanation, and we don't get to use it at all. Yes, they've been destroyed beyond repair. Ah. Oh, I see. I sank down in my seat, allowing the realization to seep in. It's alright, I'll just wait it out. If I was willing to give up God knows how much time to transit to Alpha Centauri, it's not that this is going to faze me much. I don't have a family to get back home to or anything like that. Are you sure you're alright with that, sir? Okay, well, I was saying before she said sir, so I guess we are male. I guess that's the intended character. Well, you'll remain conscious throughout the voyage. Sure, I'll be fine. Don't worry about me. She was acting all of a sudden nervous. I think my mention of cryostasis must have struck a nerve or something like that. What's the deal? She must have handled trips like these by her lonesome all the time. Well, she doesn't have the chip anymore, so... Mr. Passenger? Can I ask you something? Huh? That caught me off guard, but... Sure, what do you need? Sorry, I was just thinking, and... Her head turned to gaze at the windshield again. She clenched a hand against her bare, pale-skinned shoulder and looked towards the stars. I was looking out at the stars and hadn't realized how empty it was. Out there. Before, I could make a voyage easily, even on the flights where my passenger was in stasis. I could wait it out, without a second thought, without a single doubt, but now She turned her head to me. Her voice was low and rippled with apprehension. My mind, it wanders so much now. I wouldn't want to be left to my own thoughts, and I look out there and think of how lonely it must be to float through space like this and, well, put on some anime DVD. Well, I don't think there's DVDs. Blu-rays? Put on some shows and watch like 30 days worth of anime. I don't know. To pass the time. Maybe you won't be so bored. I don't know. I couldn't quite follow what she was saying. She was going too fast. She must have caught on to the fact herself. She took a deep breath. Her chest expanded and retracted. Is it alright if we talk? While we're on our way to the military installation? Would you be alright with that? I wouldn't want to be left by myself for so long. I don't think I'd be able to handle it. Not this time. Part of me wonders now how I ever did it before. She scoffed softly, as if she just made a joke. It wasn't a funny one. If anything, she sounded dreadfully sad. I stared back at her for a moment and sighed. Well, of course we can talk. I wouldn't just force you to shut yourself off or anything like that. What kind of bastard are you taking me for? You saved my life after all, didn't you? I'll just sit here and talk to you, all the way through. I owe you that much. Suddenly Budapest sprang like a supernova. That's quite the metaphor. Or is simile? I keep mixing up the metaphor or simile. I think it's a simile. Anyway, it appeared I'd made her day. I chuckled at her. I can read you like an open book, you know that? She blushed. Her frame becomes more transparent when she blushes. Huh. Look, it's not like I have much of a choice anyway, right? The cryostasis system is offline, so what else could I do? Just sit there whistling for a month, pretending like you're not there, watching my every move? I respect the privacy of my passengers. But you gotta get us out of this mess, alright? I'm no pushover, but I still don't find being stranded in dead space to be particularly fun. Alright, I'm counting on you. Of course, sir. I'll try my best. You have my word. Truthfully, there was little choice between either of us. Besides, I didn't think I'd been able to rest easily in Carl's sleep anyway, knowing I'd be leaving this miserable creature to her own devices the whole time. Time to get comfortable, I suppose. I sighed, stretched out, and turned my head to the stars. Budapest turned to look at them too. This was going to be one long trip. And so, like that, some time passed, with Budapest and I becoming accustomed to spending our days drifting slowly through space. It took a while to get used to, but eventually, aided by the tranquility of space and its ocean of stars, we were able to find a small measure of peace. The jettisoning of the cockpit was a stressful time for both of us. Between the screaming, the close scrape with untimely death, made for some awkward first impressions. So for much of the time, I just felt tired. I was sleeping, having nodded off in the co-pilot's chair when... The time is now 1200 hours. I stirred in my seat. At least I knew what time it was. Budapest must have been programmed to make periodic announcements such as these. Oh, Mr. Passenger, sir. That was a lot of titles. Yeah, I'm up. What? I did a real job of contorting myself in my seat. Unknotting my pretzel legs, I peeled myself from my seat, extending my arms toward the ceiling. I stretched to get all the kinks out of my back. Drowsily, I looked ahead, at the stars drifting out in the cosmos across the black expanse. You didn't wake me up just to stargaze, did you? There are enough of those out there to last us the whole trip. No, it's just... Well, you were snoring. I wanted to check up on you. What kind of cause and effect relationship is that? Also, I don't snore. Well, how do you know that? You don't know usually, unless you record yourself when you're sleeping, I guess. I beg to differ, sir. I was just concerned because, well, perhaps you have allergies, or... I don't have any allergies. Also, while we're on the matter, I don't snore. What? 1 second. Budapest turned to her display, and what was she bringing up to? What? This wasn't me. This was the sound of some sort of suffocating animal superimposed on a grainy footage of me sleeping. When did she even capture it anyway? How did she capture it? Why did she capture it? I spun in my seat, towards one of the Budapest's cameras, and glared right into it. She giggled at the expression of anger on my face. See, we should get you on a more regular sleep cycle. It's bad for your heart, and could lead to hypertension. Yeah, because I'm tense enough as it is. I sighed, getting settled into my chair. You always give your passengers this much trouble? Not everyone can get 9 square hours of sleep at night? Well, not really. Given the circumstances, though, you could bear to make an exception for once. It's not like you have much of an excuse not to, right? She had a point. Still, I wasn't ready to concede. Not yet. Well, you're an artificial intelligence, right? Can't you just, like, turn off your audio receptors or something? Don't think it bothered you then. I could. Kind of creepy to record all that in any case, not gonna lie. I thought you said you didn't watch me sleep. I don't. Not at all. It's for... security. Security reasons. I can't change that. It's be a breach of protocol. She was insistent on that point. I didn't know artificial intelligences could blush. She was getting so embarrassingly squirmy, so visibly flustered, I laughed in her face. Excuse me. Eh. Passenger doesn't have any allergies, but I might have. To AIs. Anyway. Alright. Fine, I get it. I'll try to get some more sleep. That seemed to satisfy her. A small, warm smile crept across her face. So what have you been up to then? I hope you've been doing more than watching me sleep. Very funny. Actually, well, I've been combing through our database registries. It's funny. They've always been there, but I hadn't really ever engaged with them in the past. Databases. Yes, they're standard in all outgoing Titan transportation systems. Trillions of archival documents stored electronically inside the holographic layers of each vessel. The database is intended for the purposes of extraterrestrial ambassadorship. It's a compilation of digitally preserved artifacts dating back to the times of old Earth. They go that far back, huh? Hard to believe that every dingy little spaceship like this one carries the full extent of humanity's cultural footprint. It's a wonder they managed to fit it all in. It's a little romantic, don't you think? What, like a candlelit dinner romantic? No, nothing like that. Like, idyllic. I don't quite follow. It's incredible they fit so much together and all, but... It's like, well, you know when mankind first landed on the moon, orbiting old Earth? Of course, it's a galactic civil holiday. Built a museum over their footprints. It's hard not to learn about it. She nodded. Of course. And the lunar plaque that's preserved there, too. Here men from the planet Earth first set foot upon the moon, July 1969 AD. We came in peace for all mankind. It was a message for visitors from abroad. Even when man first broke through the skies to the stars, they looked beyond the veil to find others like them. Budapest placed a hand on the console, silently, delicately patting it. She looked down and examined her pale, dainty fingers as she spoke on. And even today, we carry their dream with us, along with their memories. Their dream of meeting travelers like us, just from a different walk of the world. I think that's really incredible. That's the sort of romantic I was thinking about. The dreamy look in her eyes was dissonant. She stared out in the front of the cockpit. How long has she been staring out in the stars like that? It didn't help that I was buying into wistful prose a little myself. It was whimsical and saccharine, but I couldn't think of a better reason. A public transit fleet for commuters will be outfitted with all known human knowledge. I'd opened my mouth to respond and try to shoot her down, but honestly, I couldn't. I didn't have a better idea, and well, I'd have not been able to live with myself. Kind of lousy to trample on the imagination of a naive, innocent girl, artificial intelligence or otherwise. I turned my gaze to the stars out in front of me, opting to change the subject. I don't suppose you met any strange, distant travelers yourself, flying about in outer space? Who? Other than you? Budapest giggled warmly. I rolled my eyes a little. Sadly, no. But there are maybe 50 million spacefaring vessels from Titan transport alone currently making their rounds across mapped space. If any travelers encountered one of us, I'm sure they'll be well met with a generous gift. I wouldn't terribly mind if one of those millions swung by us to pick us up, too. That was a sadder, smaller laugh than the one I would like to hear. So we've the sum of all human knowledge at our fingertips. So what do we do with it? She had a startled look in her eyes. Have you ever taken a look at them yourself before this? The databases? No, actually. Reading through them was never part of my duties. That suited me fine. There was always enough for me to do to ensure a safe and pleasant voyage. A straight-laced answer, as I expected. What wasn't expected, though, was the way her eyes focused hungrily, lustfully at the console. Now that you mention it, I'm awfully curious to have a peek inside, aren't you? Well, we've got a month to kill. No objections here, I suppose. Oh, come on, smile a little. This could be fun. Aren't you excited? I guess I could be a little more excited to take a gander at the dusty old records of a bunch of dead folk. That's history for you. Actually, I was a lot more interested than I was letting on, but seeing her pout like that was a treat. I let out a chuckle as she pecked angrily away at the displays. I leaned over to get a better look at what she was up to. It was a digital surface, an encyclopedic search engine. Remarkably modern stuff. So what you looking up first? Wouldn't you like to know? Actually, I would. Budapest snickered. Hold on, one sec. And it took a second for the display to refresh, and there it was. Budapest, Hungary. Situated in Central Europe, back on old Earth. They said it was one of the most beautiful cities on the continent. Her namesake. Huh. Didn't take you for an actual child. Some of all human knowledge at your fingertips, and you look up your own name. Narcissism, is it? Stop bullying me. No bully. I chuckled again. It was fun to get on her case about it. Shaking her head, she refocused her attention. Budapest was a union of 3 cities. 2 cities of Buda and Obuda were on the hilly western side of the Danube River. The city of Pest on the flat eastern side. They were connected via bridges and... oh my. What is it? I caught a look at what she was reacting to. It was a sprawling series of buildings with spirals extending up and beyond or above the rest of the city. It was imposing and yet oddly regal and cultured at the same time. I squinted to read the caption beneath it. Budapest's Parliament Building. Its grounds extend across 18,000 square meters. What? 40 kilos of gold? They decorated the rooms with gold. I don't think you'd be able to find any left over, though. Guess not. Damn. According to this, Budapest was remarkably artistic and cultured. Oh, look at this. She brought up the image of another building. An opera house, the caption said. It already looked ancient by the time the photograph was taken. Odds were that it was nothing but dust in this day and age. I grimaced. Ain't that something? Look at this. What's that? Says here that the namesakes come from Slavic words. Buda was for water, Pest for oven. I glanced over to her. She didn't seem to get it either. I guess it would fit you perfectly, wouldn't it? Huh? I beg your pardon? Are you saying I look like a water oven? That's not... No, it's not what I'm saying. I mean, you know, water, fire, like... There's a clarity to what you say, what you do. And there's like a pure innocence about you since, well, you know. But at the same time, you're also warm and passionate. You get excited easily, as if there's a spark of something in your eyes. Like you've got both water and fire within you. You got all faces is what I'm saying. Sorry. Just rambling at this point. Trying to be poetic, Mr. Passenger? It was a stupid analogy, so... No, it's alright, I didn't know you could be such a sweet talker. Really? I just felt like being a little poetic. She really taken to that comparison, I'm not sure why exactly. She was programmed to have a blushing animation, but I wasn't opposed. It was nice to see from her. Calming even. Warm. Passenger, sir? Yeah, what is it? I felt like, well, we're talking about my name and She was acting awfully strange now, fidgeting with herself. After a brief and awkward moment, she chuckled a little too loudly, perhaps in a poorly veiled attempt to dissipate the tension. Never mind about that. It's a frivolous thought. What I was wondering was if... Would you like me to read you any interesting passages in the databanks? It'll make me for a good in-flight entertainment. And that's another responsibility of a good stewardess. At least in this case, it would, She approached this proposal with such vigor, only to stumble near the end. I waved my hand. I knew this was less about me and more about letting her say her own curiosity, so... I think I'd be up for that. More or less on the architecture, though. It's depressing to think everything in these photos are probably dust or in ruins now. I was wondering, was she gonna ask our name? Would that even... Well, I guess that would make the passenger not us, not the player, but someone else then, if the passenger has a name. I guess, because we don't get a choice to enter our name anyway. Noted. Yes, your request is duly received. And right then and there, Budapest and I had something of a contract. This was a way of getting through the day, and it wasn't necessarily a disagreeable one. What I wasn't counting on was how much sheer data she flipped through in a single day. She didn't stop at Hungary. We ended up talking a whirlwind tour through the rest of mainland Europe, Berlin, Bucharest, Vienna, Florence, Bruges. The list went on and on. She was feverish, insatiable in her search for knowledge. It was an information overload. Damn it, she was enamored by a cookbook now. Parisian cuisine. Maybe we can try making French crepes with a replicator passenger, sir. Yeah, good. Ooh, or Castilian paella. Really, it's Atlantic cod. I'm going to shut my eyes for a bit. I'm a little tired, and well, you wanted me to get more sleep, didn't you? At least you won't be watching me sleep anymore, now that you have something to do. Roger that, sir. Sleep well. And so I closed my eyes and rubbed against the fabric of the co-pilot's seat. I tried my hardest to get to sleep. It was all I could do to block out her excited chattering. Had no idea I'd wake up till later, but hopefully it'd all clear up in the morning. Whenever that would come. The time is now 1200 hours. Again. That time again, huh? If nothing else, Budapest was punctual. I made to undo my pretzel body from a heap of limbs, rising slowly to the day. My hair was a mess, matted down in awkward places. I rustled it back in somewhat presentable shape. I'd rather have woken up to the morning sun than the sight of stars. It didn't feel natural to live and sleep like this, but small sacrifice to making sleep travel. Sleep travel? No, space travel. Say sleep travel? Space. We're in space. I suppose I've gotten used to it. Good morning, passenger sir. Yeah, lovely morning. I responded drearily to Budapest's sunny little greeting, readjusting my posture in the co-pilot seat. If you need breakfast, our in-flight replicator would surely assist you. The replicator. I had always been wary about replicators. They sounded great on paper, being able to make any kind of food you needed at any time, but in execution, they left something to be desired. I glanced around the control panel in front of me, stored just beneath the enormous control deck. A small console that attached to what looked like an ancient microwave oven kept to itself. Weird place to keep a replicator. I would suppose it was the human pilot's responsibility to provide their own meals on a flight. I punched in some numbers. What was it? 24. The machine hummed and filled with a bright white light. I opened the door, and once the steam faded away, I saw a small paper cup standing in the center of the contraption. I took a look at the cup's contents. Looked like coffee. I took a sip and then gagged. I sighed. It was lukewarm, too. Budapest glanced at me with a frown. You see, this makeup transit shuttle doesn't exactly have the highest budget replicator. Oh well. Caffeine, I suppose. I gulped down the foul, infernal black concoction, and then crushed the cup in my hand. It seemed to give way too easily, almost as if tissue paper could crack. Well, that was a nice little jolt of energy. What are our plans for today? More aimless drifting through an endless vacuum of space, I'm guessing? I was up for some meandering through empty void myself. Mix it up a little, keep it fresh. Actually, I was studying the databases again while you were resting. I see you're still infatuated with them. How goes the hunt for knowledge? You see, that's the thing. As soon as I see a document, I just go for it. And I see there's literature, non-fiction, fiction, music. Is there any anime there? Come on. The entire, database of human knowledge, gotta be some anime, right? Like here. See? She briefly brought up some information on... It looked like a drawing of a human girl. It seemed to be listed with all kinds of information. Interests, hobbies, classes. Amelia. Before I could read into it too much, she swiped the display elegantly. The girl disappeared. I think I've had an easier time of getting through material, at least, generally. Well, it's all data and junk, right? You process that sort of stuff quickly, I'd assume. It's different now. I mean, sure, I can read 500,000 words a minute at 100% comprehension, but I'm not really getting it like that, you know? I've tapped into some archives on fiction novels published in North America. I've been having a lot of fun reading those stories. Literature is really a new discovery for me. I've been so used to having instructions spelled out to me in precise terms, but these authors manage to communicate so much with so few words. I've had to sit back and think about what they really meant. Hey, did you know they had book clubs for this sort of thing? Literature club, maybe? I wonder if they let me host one when we get back. Admittedly, that was a cute little thought to picture, seeing her hunched over a book, sitting in a circle with a bunch of other navigators. What, with the rest of the personal navigators? If they still had their limitation chips, then good luck. I mean, stories like that, they affect people differently. I guess that'll be part of the fun of getting people to sit down and talk about it. Guess it's all online now. Still, it's a fun thought. Think of a bunch of strangers scattered across planets discussing the same one story. Yeah, it'd be a lot of fun, I'm sure. She nodded, that dreamy look drifting in her widened eyes. Pick out any favorites yet? Not exactly a bookworm myself, but... Oh, I think I got one in mind. I was really sucked into it. My Antonia by Willa Cather. I read it was considered a classic. Never heard of it. A knee-jerk reaction unlike any other. I'm not exactly an archaeologist here. It was written in the United States, the first one. There's gonna be multiple versions of the United States after the first one. Anyway, the first one on Earth. It's a fictional work, but it's rooted in the history of the sweeping American Midwest. As I am to understand, it was really rural, lots of farmland, lots of outdoors work that had to be done by hand in the harsh sunlight. It was exhausting, stressful work, and when sickness hit, it hit hard. It was dreadful. Well, no kidding. With everything being automated these days, everything is a lot more stress-free. Yeah, I felt a little strange about that, and when they gathered as a family and, well, enjoyed supper and the fruits of their labor, I felt it was doubly meaningful. It was a wonderful feeling. I wouldn't want to take that away from anyone. She was surprisingly empathetic now, her emotive eyes drifting to the displays in front of her. Sounds like you got a lot out of this. You say it was fiction, yeah? Historical fiction, yes. Actually, it takes on the form of a memoir, from the perspective of a lawyer reflecting on his childhood. And it also brought up his relationship with an immigrant girl living next door. The titular Antonia, you see. Oh, it's one of those stories, huh? Suits you to be a little dreamy, suits you to be dreamy little romantic. Suits you to be a dreamy little romantic. Oh. How did you hook up? How'd they hook up? What? No, it's nothing like that. There was no hooking up. Actually, she ended up marrying somebody else. And I resent that remark. I'm plenty grounded in reality, thank you very much. Getting a little worked up over a bunch of fictional characters, aren't you? Oh, little... That's a little meta. Well, I was a little sad they didn't get together in the end. But that's besides the point. I think that proves the point entirely. Well, that's a point in my favor. Seeing her get pouty like this is its own reward. So what do they do then? Do they just walk away from each other, never seeing each other again? Most sappy romances seem to end on that note. Well, that's the thing. The protagonist had come from a higher up background, and he had the opportunity to study, to join a university and pursue a career in law. Antonia was a poor immigrant girl working on a farm. She was rooted to her working conditions for the most part. And so, they ended up drifting apart in adulthood. Well, that's the way things are. I don't think I can make out the faces of the rest of the kids I went to secondary school with. The universe is too big to stay stuck in one place. If anything, nothing's changed in that regard. Funny that you mentioned that. When I was reading, I felt like the world was changing too. Or maybe it was the boy himself who was changing. In the first book, I've gotten so enamored with how they described the beautiful landscapes and the sweeping fields, and then, when they moved into town, it was business, economics, trade. It was as if the characters were defined by the work they did. And they were all very homesick. I can relate. You can get some bum jobs in this economy. Reminding yourself that you aren't your job is about all you can do to get through the day. Passenger, sir, if I may. Did you ever get homesick? Who, me? The look Budapest gave me was complicated, filled with curiosity and at the same time, concern. I mean, to come all the way out here, it's hardly a residential sector, and well, can't say I've ever felt the feeling. As far as I ever know, this ship is, well, it's simply where I've always been. On the other hand, you traveled a lot. Maybe you could explain the feeling? I don't know if I could. It's like, I guess home is where you leave a part of yourself. It's like, no matter how far you go, part of you is always gonna be there, waiting for you. It's where you grew up, yeah? And those memories, well, memories, they don't ever go away. No matter how much you wanted them to. That's why I thought, but for whatever reason I couldn't say it out loud. It didn't seem especially pertinent. Budapest nodded in agreement, regardless. It's funny. This ship's a part of me, you could say. I don't think I could ever leave it, but that's okay, I think. I mean, I have plenty of recordings. I know a lot of people were happy to fly with me. I can't forget their faces. Literally, they're stored in my quantum memory. Quite convenient. She let out a mirthful chuckle. I couldn't help but grin a little in response. I don't know. This is kind of like my home in a way. I mean, I've been here as long as I can remember, and I have pretty good memory. I don't think I could ever leave it, or rather, I don't think I could leave it behind so easily. I mean, it's my directive, right? To be here. The voice was getting lower. I guess I won't really understand that feeling myself. All this reading just got me thinking about how different from others I really am. Humans, they get to drift from one place to another while I'm rooted here, shackled in functions and code and processors. I guess all people have to move on eventually, but at least I managed to help them along their way, right? So you really want to get out of here? I'm not so sure, honestly. She flashed me a small smile. I like helping people, And I'm able to do that right here. There's so many photos, stories, and memoirs in these databanks. At the very least, I can witness the cherished memories and stories of others. As for me, I have plenty of records and recordings and logs, but no real memories to call my own. She clutched her head, rubbing it thoughtfully. I don't know. Maybe I'm just overthinking things. I don't know. It sounds to me like you want to get out there and live a little. Which would be understandably hard to get around in your current state. But I don't think it'll be impossible. Huh? Well, I was joking around when I said it earlier, but if they end up deeming you unfit for service once you were rescued, you can travel with me. It's not exactly glamorous, you see, the life I live. There's lots of sitting and waiting around to get where you want to be. But at the end of the trail, there are incredible sights. Looking at an old photo is not the same at all. And you'll be making memories. Your memories. Yours alone. I wasn't exactly sure where I was going with that. It sounded like a nice enough idea as I was saying it, but she was pretty attached to her position as a personal navigator. Budapest simply stared at me for a few silent, awkward moments, and for a second I wondered, maybe I'd said something incredibly, stupidly forward. I mean, this was just supposed to be a favor. Tensed, I rubbed the back of my neck. If something like that sounds okay to you, I mean, I wouldn't mind. It sounds like a wonderful idea. Wait, really? Budapest was beaming with joy. No problem, we're just gonna steal a, sentient AI that's totally not illegal or anything. I never exactly got to, talk with people this much, but now, I guess I already have a few memories to call my own. If it's alright with you, I'll hold them close. You don't really need to ask for permission for anything like that. Sorry, force of habit, I suppose. I guess that book just got me thinking about how humans hold their past close to themselves. They never really forget, and it sticks with them for their whole lives. I mean, you're not gonna forget about our trip, right? She turned to me with a teasing pang in her voice. I shuffled slightly. I have no idea how I could. I muttered and chuckled. Admittedly, I was having too, spending my time chatting with Budapest, drifting with her through space, accompanying her on a voyage through the ocean of stars. I wonder how long I slept this time. That was the first thought that popped into my head as I parted my eyelids to an expanse of stars. I might as well have been the same ones I fell asleep counting. Even with the centuries of entertainment to fill the void, time began to lose its coherence. Minutes blended into hours, which melded into days. Such is the fate of man in space, which I suppose is why cryostasis was invented, to quickly pass the long intervals between departure and arrival that would otherwise drive you bonkers. The second thought that occurred to me as I stirred awake in my seat was that, for an AI, Budapest was one hell of a singer. She like a Vocaloid, maybe. I straightened up in my chair and opened my eyes to see her facing the windshield. Her back turned towards me. She was singing an old familiar melody, one I must have heard dozens of times as a kid, in movies and cartoons. Her voice gave it a grace that I never knew it could have. Oh, she actually is the lyrics? How's the song? I don't know the song. Beautiful dreamer, wake unto me. Starlights and dewdrops are waiting for thee. Sounds of the rude bird heard in the day, lulled by the moonlight have all passed away. I don't know. I actually don't know. What's this song? It's probably like a very known song. I just don't know it. Her arms hung by her side as she swayed gently in time with each line, and for a moment I forgot she wasn't human. Why would an AI move so gracefully to the tune of a song, on her way to becoming a idol, a virtual diva. I don't know. Why would an AI, even a sentient one, sing for that matter? Was it some sort of lullaby meant for me? I don't know how long I was out, but she couldn't have sung me to sleep. My periods of sleep and wakefulness might have been starting to blend together into one indistinct blur. But there's no way I could have forgotten the voice so genuine, so sweet. Wake unto me, evil dreamer, awake unto me. I don't know. Wake unto me, beautiful dreamer, awake unto me. I don't know. Then again, maybe the point was to wake me up. She seemed unaware that her song had gained an audience, but perhaps she wasn't. I had never paused to consider how lonely Budapest must be when I slept. When I've been conscious, she has had someone to share her feelings with, someone to relay her excitement to, as she digests volume after volume of human history. But for the duration of my slumbers, she's been left alone, with no one to share these new experiences with. Whether she had intended to wake me or not, I decided I wouldn't do or say anything that might interrupt her singing. And so, hoping not to draw her attention, I sat perfectly still. Doing so was easy, as with every new verse I found myself more captivated by her performance, entranced by her flowing red hair and dress as they swayed with her body to the music. Just as a hologram, gazing out into the depths of space, singing with more emotional sincerity than any human being I'd ever heard. She turned around mid-verse, and so I quickly leaned back in my seat and pretended I was asleep, leaving my eyes open just enough to see the beaming smile on her face. She was practically glowing. Well, she's literally glowing in the picture anyway. Beautiful dreamer, beam on my heart, even as the morn on the streamlet and sea. Then will all clouds of sorrow depart. Beautiful dreamer, awake unto me. I don't know. I'm just guessing how the melody would sound from the music. Beautiful dreamer, awake unto me. She finished her performance with a contented sigh and opened her eyes. As she did, I rose to give her a standing ovation. "Ah, passenger, sir, you were awake?" Her face blushed crimson red, which elicited a chuckle from me. "Why, is that a problem? I can go back to sleep if you like." "Oh no, please don't. I was just surprised to learn that you had been listening." "Why? Would you have actually put some effort into it if you knew I had been?" She placed her hands on her hips and pouted. And what is that supposed to mean? I'm kidding. That was beautiful, Budapest. There's a serenity into your voice that's well suited for music. Really? I quickly nod. You ought to sing more often. She was apparently caught off guard by these sudden compliments. That endearing blush of hers made a return showing, accompanied by a huge smile. "Thank you, sir. Truthfully, that was the only first song I'd ever sung." "Really? So what made you want to give it a shot? Were you digging through old Earth music on the database?" She responded with an enthusiastic nod. "Yes, specifically compositions from 19th and 20th centuries AD. The human species had unprecedented bursts of music creativity in their latter years on old Earth. But that 200-year epoch is widely considered by musicologists. Is that really a thing? Musicologists? I guess so. Musicologists to be the peak period of humankind's musical artistry. The song you just heard is titled Beautiful Dreamer and was written in 1826 by... I smiled and nodded politely as she babbled excitedly about the history of the song, its composer, and of that era in music history. Though I didn't share her passion for old Earth history, it was hard not to be won over by her high spiritedness. I think I could listen to that era's music all night and not grow bored. All night? We're out in the middle of nowhere, space, perhaps light years from the nearest sun. How does she have any concept of night? Well, I suppose you won't be needing my company then. With a teasing look, I settled back in the co-pilot seat and closed my eyes. Wait, what? Well, you do have centuries of music to listen to, don't you? Wake me up when you do get real bored, which, at the rate that you've been digesting information, should be in a couple of decades or so. I cracked open an eye to catch Budapest pouting angrily at me. That's not very funny, sir. Oh, I'm not, am I? She shook her head emphatically. I do get bored when you're asleep, or to be more accurate, She paused and struggled with the next word. Never mind. It's nothing important, Protecting you is my primary directive. That's all I need to worry myself about. Do you think that's fair, though? She cocked her head to the side. What do you mean? What I mean is, do you think it's fair that my needs must always come before your own? The question seemed to perplex her. But sir, I was programmed to serve humanity. Serving you is my need. Titan spent years developing the deep code that enables us AI to... No, you still don't understand. I know what you're programmed to do, Budapest, but how do you feel about it? She bit her lower lip, glancing down at the floor as she thought this over. I don't know, sir. No one's ever asked before. Naturally, until recently, there were never any feelings to be inquired about. Then, let's look at this from another angle. Why shouldn't you ever think of yourself? But you're human, and I'm... Do you really think that being made of flesh and bone makes me any more of a person than you? She seemed surprised, saddened, even frightened by this line of questioning, but ultimately she was confused. Clearly, no one had ever put her on their own level before. Now that someone had, she didn't know how to react. At that moment, I would have given anything in the world to have been able to hug her, or even just a comforting hand on her shoulder, but I couldn't, so I have to make do with a smile. All I'm saying is, if you want me to stay up with you a little longer, all you have to do is ask. She looked up from the floor, her sapphire eyes meeting mine in a hopeful gaze. She held them there for some time, staring deep into my eyes as though to ascertain my motives. The notion that I could have been making fun of her, if indeed she considered it, was hurtful, but I can't say I blame her for doubting me. I've done worse things than give false hope to a hologram. Would you please keep me company a little longer, sir? Of course. Be my pleasure. Oh, thank you, passenger, sir. Thank you. Thank you. She rushed towards me with wide open arms, laughing gleefully. And, of course, passed right through me. Neither of us could think of anything to say. Our backs were turned to each other now, the result of a cruel twist of fate. What could have been one of the more pleasant moments of this journey had suddenly turned awkward, more than a little sad. Fortunately, it was only I who saw it that way. After a moment or two of silence, Budapest simply turned around with a heartfelt smile on her face and laughed. She then walked up to me and wrapped her slender arms around me, stopping just a millimeter or so from my body. The warmth of the light of her projected figure made the rest of the cockpit seem frigid by comparison. Is that our body? You have some hair? Anyway. Hey. What is it? Would it be alright if I addressed you by your name from now on? Oh, we finally learned the passenger's name? You have it on record, right? Yes? Of course. Please, if you want me to, or if you want to, call me by my name. Alright. Thank you for being stranded in space with me. Ilarion. Is that his name? Ilarion? Ilarion, so it's not us, it's just a character in the game. You know, in most visual novels, usually in a lot of visual novels, you usually play the role of the character, and usually you put your own name. But I guess this person, this passenger, it's his own character with its own name. At least right now. At least that's what we learned from learning his name. So, anyway, it felt so nice hearing her say my name. And the same to you, Budapest. Silence. Boom.